All right, I'm back with another project. Uh, so this is a project I did at Central St. Martin's uh, called Poetic Truths. So this was definitely one of my favorite projects, just um, in terms of I think from a conceptual practice, and this was something that I got a lot with my professors, in that a lot of my projects were really complex, like really like I think I'm more of a conceptual artist than whatever other type of artist. Like I don't know, because there's always just too much shit that needs to be explained. But yeah, so this one's called Poetic Truths. And so basically what we had to do for this project was they wanted us to base our project around a text. Um, and so for my text, I found this good. I didn't know what I was going to use for a while. I was looking at like lyrics. I was like, all right, well, what the fuck should I use? And I forgot that I had read this article, this really good article a while ago, which is here. And it's an article from I think Stanford or Harvard, and it's basically about existentialism, and it compares two, I guess, existentialist figures or protagonists from two different perspectives. One is Jean-Luc Godard, Pierrot le Fou, which is a movie, which is an old French movie from Jean-Luc Godard. Um, and the other protagonist is from Albert Camus, The Myth of Sisyphus, or Sisyphus, however the fuck you say. But Albert Camus is an existentialist philosopher who created the philosophy of absurdism, which, if anyone is into that, you can read about it. I would highly recommend it. But I really liked it. It was a really good article comparing the two kind of characters, and Pierrot and Sisyphus. So that's what I ended up basing my project on. I might link the article to this, the full article, because I only took a few snippets of the article for this project. And so basically what I did is I broke down the main ideas of this article into 5 categories. But before I break down these categories, let me break down these categories first. Let me break down these categories. So there's really 5 principal ideas that I got from this article: the terrible weight, recognition and defining the absurd, surrender and acceptance, revolt and rejection, and then transcending your condition, or the condition, I guess. So the terrible weight: in the absence, quote, in the absence of God, the common man will become enslaved by his own bad faith of consumerism and shallow societal norms in order to avoid the anguish, the terrible weight of his own responsibility. So I took parts of the excerpt, and that's what I gave them as the title for the parts. So like the terrible weight here, this is part 1. I named it the terrible weight. Recognition, defining the absurd. The first characteristic of the absurd hero is to recognize the absurd. Camus defines this through literature in his book, The Myth of Sisyphus. So recognition and defining the absurd. The next part is surrender and acceptance. If Sisyphus abandons himself to the absurdity, he would face his task in sorrow, and it would be metaphorical suicide. If Sisyphus surrenders to sorrow, he will be admitting that the suffering in life without purpose makes life not worth living. That's a crucial quote right there. However, Camus suggests that Sisyphus retains joy without hope or purpose in his return to the rock. In this instance, Sisyphus accepts the absurd contradiction of the task, and becomes the absurd hero. Following the analogy, performing this task with happiness suggests that Sisyphus, as the absurd hero, accepts the void of God and purpose and continues living despite suffering. So this is a pretty big one. This is a pretty important one, I would say. I mean, they're all important, but this is probably the most important one. So revolt and rejection. Rejection of false truths. Camus presents this false truth as logic, and Godard presents this false truth as societal norms. His acceptance of the rock's inevitable fall does not stop him from rebelling against the inevitable by pushing the rock up the mountain. Thus, the revolt of the absurd man is evidence and manifestation of his struggle. I really like this. The revolt. This is just a nice passage. So, how do we transcend the condition? Transcend the condition in the sudden loss of inherent meaning and purpose in life. The absurd man transcends his condition. And so, finding happiness in the void and ultimately clinging to life, Camus and Godard suggest that only in the state of the absurd hero can man truly appreciate the present moment. So this is pretty good. There's a lot of good stuff going on. This is a lot of topics that I've just been delving deep into, kind of like in my own life: philosophy, existentialism, meaninglessness, purposelessness, God, the void, how to accept, how to move forward, what to do. And so I think that this really is a strong condensation for a good blueprint for the condition of, I guess, today's man, today's godless or voidless man, if anyone reads Nietzsche. I guess we killed God, but anyways. So this is really important. The fact that when you see the arrows, the first step, going to the second step, going to the third, to the fourth, to the fifth, this sort of process, right? From the terrible weight to the transcendence of the condition. Now, this is important because what I did was, this is supposed to be side by side with this. And they're basically side by side. So let me explain this. So we did a research exercise of color reference and word references, right? So what is a color? What is the word that we associate with the color, etc., right? And so these colors, these words are associated with the colors. What I did was I associated parts of this idea to follow this process, right? So let me break this down. So the idea, that the central idea of this text is to transcend the condition of absurdity, living in absurd existence in the absence of God, right? Finding happiness, clinging to life. That's the core idea, is to transcend. And so how it's represented is that it's sort of silent. So it's silent. The color that's referenced is black, and what this references is loneliness. So next, how is this idea represented through text? This idea is represented through text by Camus in his literature of the myth of Sisyphus, which is gray, which the reference is sophisticated. How is this idea represented in film? It's represented in film through Godard, which is a visual medium. And the colors that I used for reference here were blue, and that the blue represents calm and fluidity. How is this song represented? How is this idea of transcendence represented through song? This is psychedelic porn crumpets. It's a band, and that medium is audio. So in that medium is that color is red, orange, which represents bad tempered, fierce. And then lastly, how is this idea represented in an experience is this rooftop moment, which I'll explain later, which is a physical uh, representation of the idea. And lastly, that's green, which is associated with happy. So these two go side by side coincidentally. So like the terrible weight here would correspond with the idea of transcendence, the silence, the black, and the loneliness. The next, the recognition of and defining the absurd would go with the text in the Camus literature, sophistication, gray, etc., and so forth. So surrender and acceptance. Surrender and acceptance feels kind of blue. It's like calm, fluid. You've accepted something. Godard visual, right? Revolt and rejection. Oh fuck. That's fiery. That's red. It's here. And then lastly, transcendence of the condition is green, which is here, the rooftop moment, the physical experience, happy. And so this rooftop moment is this rooftop moment. I was chilling with my friend one night. It was probably late at night. We used to live in LA, and we had this apartment, and I was showing him this song, and we were just chilling. We were smoking on the rooftop. It was late at night. We were just chilling, and it was just a good moment. It was like overall a good moment. This is kind of after I had gone through sort of like, I guess, existential or identity crisis or whatever. And it was like one of the first times I felt good in a long time, like just chilling with a friend and like just being in the present moment. Um, so that's some of the research basis. Now, getting into the actual, okay, how does this manifest itself in an art project? It was really difficult. It was is so let me get into it. How I broke this down was, so this is the presentation for the art project. It's called Poetic Truths. This is actually from the movie Godard, Pierrot le Fou. And then this is the album cover for Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, which is a sick band. But how I broke it down was that there's the research part, and then it's represented in a physical, it's represented in a piece or something like that, right? So the terrible weight, the idea is transcendence, how this manifests is silent. The color reference is lonely. These are some visual references and stuff like that. Then I put the quote here: in the absence of God, the common man will become enslaved by his own bad faith of consumerism, shallow societal norms, etc. Okay. So what does this mean, bro? What does this mean? How do I translate this into a physical thing? Basically, I took this idea of a bowling bag, which is here, and this sculpture here. And so if you can see the reference there, it's like your head is too heavy, bro. You're thinking too much, and that's what it says. One's own internal battles are often hidden from the outside world, can sometimes feel too heavy to carry. So a lot of times when we're dealing with these things are too heavy for us to carry. They're in our head, and it feels like a fucking bowling ball. So it's a bowling bag. So I had this idea of making this fucking like mask, like it's a headpiece, and obviously these are very like amateur products. Like it's like fucking COVID. Like we don't have a lot of resources or tools or whatever. Now the colors that I've chosen to use are all prominent. Like you see, all of these colors are prominent in the pieces, because the colors is very symbolic of these ideas. So like you'll see like, right, there's like green on the eyes, which is transcendence, the silver, which is the sophisticated, the blue, which is common fluid, the red, the black. It's all there, right? It's all there. And the design of it is meant to replicate that of a bowling bag, which the bowling bag is to symbolize this idea right here. Um, so yeah, and my sketching is pretty trash, but that's what it is. So this is some of the reference for the other stuff. So the first characteristic of the absurd hero is to recognize the absurd, gray, sophisticated. So recognizing the absurd. So the text, the action is to put on in the absence of God. That's why I wrote it in the absence of God. It's like you have to like put it on. You know what I mean? Like you have to like put on the mask. And I just thought of this like break glass in case of emergency. So in the absence of God or break glass in case of emergency, you put that shit on. So like in the recognition of an emergency or in this so in the recognition of an emergency or in this context, the absence of God, the hero is called into action and therefore to put on the mask. The hero can be anyone, anywhere, at any time. The mask symbolizes a transformation from one shedding of a previous identity into another. In order to act, we must first recognize the context of the condition. So if you think about like superheroes, most superheroes, they always have like a mask or whatever. So in this instance, the reason to put on the mask is because there's no God. Or we've been abandoned by God, right? So we're just fucking just doing wild ass shit here on earth, bro. So yeah, it's kind of fucked up, but that's how it's represented. So you see like the text is representative of that. So next, the surrender and acceptance film. Godard visual of Sisyphus abandons himself to the absurdity. He would face his task in sorrow, and it would be metaphorical suicide of Sisyphus. If Sisyphus surrenders to sorrow, he'll be admitting to that the suffering in life without purpose makes life not worth living. However, Camus suggests that Sisyphus retains joy without hope or purpose in his return to the rock. And this is his. Okay, you guys can read that. What's funny is that in the film of Godard, I went back and watched the Pierrot Le Fou. They use a lot of color. They use like a ton of color, and these are actually all scenes from the movie, and they're all colors that were really important to that I was using in this project, like the red, the blue, the green, right? Red, blue, green, yellow. It's all there. So, and then this is I think this guy's name is Dan Flavin or something like that. He does these lights, and it's kind of sick. But so I wanted to use that. Now, how does this represent? This is represented in visual imagery. So it's less about what the image is, but it's more about the transition. That's why I put it specifically in this order, because so the color transition refer to research. So the color transition in this order, it follows this this idea right here. So like you see the beginning is black, gray, black, gray, then to blue, then to red, and then lastly to green. So the simple change of perspective in the attitude in which we perform the task. And I feel like that's important because in this image, nothing's changed across the four images except the color, the lens, or the way that we're looking at it, and which is pretty central to the idea of the text, which is basically like just reframing how you're looking at shit in the world, even if it's like meaningless. Looking at it that way is not going to help you. Like how it says in the text, if Sisyphus surrenders to if Sisyphus surrenders to sorrow, he will be admitting that suffering in life without purpose makes life not worth living. However, Camus suggests that Sisyphus retains joy without hope or purpose. Yeah, yeah. So just how you look at shit, bro. Even if it's fucking doesn't really mean anything. If you look at it like that, it's not gonna be. It doesn't help anything. So then revolt and rejection, the psychedelic porn crumpets. So rejection of false truths. Camus presents this false truth as logic, and Godard presents this false truth as social norm. His acceptance of the rock's inevitable fall does not stop him from rebelling against the inevitable by pushing the rock up the mountain. Thus, the revolt of the absurd man is the evidence and the manifestation of his struggle. Again, Dan Flavin. I like this quote. It says, "It doesn't sound like much fun," when he says that's life. But it's all good. It's not that much fun, but yeah, that's life, bro. And then obviously the words, the colors, everything like that. So what does this look like in an art sense? How does this manifest in a physical sense? So basically, there was a quote in the text, and it says, "Only in the moments in which he tries to save himself does he demonstrate his ability to value life without meaning." So in the end of this movie, Pierrot le Fou, there's this dynamite, right? So at first you see this bag, right? It's like a handbag. So that was something that I wanted. I was like, okay, I like the bag, I like the accessories or whatever. That could be interesting. And then in the movie, there's a scene in the movie where he basically tries to blow himself up. And right before the dynamite goes off, he has his like dynamite like on his head. And right before right before the dynamite explodes, he tries to save himself. He realizes, he's like, oh fuck, like I don't actually want to die. And I won't spoil it, but you should check it out. So I wanted to use the dynamite. And so basically what I wrote, the conscious act slash choice of not letting go of the bag, the dynamite, and choosing life is an affirmation of choosing life and saving himself, revolting against Godard's notion of false truths that constantly says to give up, and rejecting Camus' notion of false truths by taking actions that defy logic, right? So the Godard's notion, I think Godard's was social norms. Yeah, social norms. So social norms generally tell you to give up. They don't really want you to like pursue your dreams and shit like that. Like, so it's important that you're rejecting that and you're doing what's true to yourself. So that's why it says like false truth, reject, false truth, reject, revolt. And then logic, right? Like logically, there's things that you shouldn't be able to do, but if you're really pursuing your dreams and things are gonna happen, things are gonna for you to achieve that and to accomplish that. I'm just speaking from experience because certain things have happened in my journey that I think are just unexplainable. That just wouldn't make there's just absolute zero logic in how it could have possibly have happened in a certain way. And so the fact of not letting go of this bag of dynamite says it's a symbolic action, like you're choosing to save yourself by rejecting these false truths, and to value life without meaning. So lastly, because let me go back, because it's a whole ensemble, right? So it's like it's all attached basically. And there's like a light in the bag and everything like that. The rope. I don't know. This is a very interesting character. So lastly, experience in the sudden loss of inherent meaning and purpose in life, the absurd man transcends his condition, finding happiness in the void and ultimately clinging to life. So clinging to life would be holding on to the bag. Camus and Godard suggest that only in the state of the absurd hero can man truly appreciate the present moment. And that's why I wrote NC Piero tries to save himself. And so yeah, and when it all comes together, basically how it would come together would be that the person, because it's a whole experience. Like there's like a video. I think it's just gonna play right now. This might play. I don't know if people will hear it. But ideally, it was supposed to be like a multi-sensory experience where there's like a video, and basically it's meant to engage someone with their present moment. That's essentially how you transcend the condition. So you transcend this whole condition of, I guess, being godless or not having purpose or living a meaningless existence by continually just trying to live in the present moment, and do things that engage you with the present moment. So this video is actually I might mute it. There's actually a lot going on in this video that maybe I'll leave for open for interpretation. Maybe someone wants an explanation, but yeah. And so that's that. That's the end of the project, Poetic Truths. So it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. I know it's kind of complicated, but I did just want to explain it. But yeah, so that's what's going on. Appreciate it. Maybe I'll do another one. I got a couple more projects and shit that I might talk about. So yeah. All right.